less CPU, we've got battery issues, but then we've got a lot more accelerators, a lot more sensors and information that we can get in, so we can get more context out of it. And now we need to fit WebRTC into that environment, and we have two of them. We've got today iOS and Android. Okay, so the question that we asked is, how do you get WebRTC into mobile? And we wanted to make an event that would answer that question in the best possible way. And the thing is that in order to answer that question, the first thing that we need to do is to decide, well, what mobile exactly is for us? Because mobile comes in different shapes and sizes. There's the web application part. I can just run web applications in the browsers, or I can develop applications for the mobile device. And these I can do either as hybrid ones or native ones. When we talk about web applications, we have two platforms to think about. Okay, iOS and Android. What we want to do is to get WebRTC to work inside the browser. Now, iOS doesn't work today with WebRTC, no matter what you try to do inside the browser. You can't really go install a browser and have WebRTC work on it. Chrome doesn't work with WebRTC on iOS today. And even if it would, do you actually go and ask a person to install a browser on his device in order to be able to run such a thing on him? It doesn't make sense. On Android, though, we have Firefox and Chrome today that support WebRTC. We have more browsers that support WebRTC on Android. Doesn't really matter. One thing to remember when you get here, by the way, is that on many of the Android devices out there, Chrome isn't the default browser that comes with the phone. Okay? Any of you have an LG or a Samsung phone? Okay, have you noticed the fact that when you open a URL, it doesn't really go into Chrome directly? It goes to some other browser instead? That one doesn't support WebRTC. Okay, so you need to take these things also into consideration, and what do you do then in the flow of your application? There are ways to do that, but not today. The next thing that we're going to look at is hybrid. Hybrid means a cross-platform application that we're trying to build. So we're not going to build an application for iOS and a separate application for Android. And when you fix a bug in iOS, you go and fix the bug in Android, and we need a new feature, we add it here, and we add it there. We want to use a framework or some kind of a mechanism that would allow us to develop once and run many. And there are two alternatives when we do that. The first one is to use WebView. For those of you who don't know, WebView is simply getting an HTML page inside the browser that can render HTML pages and JavaScript code. Okay? The other alternative is to use compiled code. So I write something in scripting language, one type or another, even JavaScript. The codes get compiled for my target device. And then I can write all of my application once, the application logic once, and just the UI, write it twice to fit with the different nuances and modalities of iOS and Android. Okay? But I can now look at development and do it in a different way. Now, if you talk about web views, the way we do it is we take JavaScript code, because it runs it HTML, we need to run it in a web view. They need to get that code to run on our device. One of the most popular ways to do that is using Cordova or PhoneGap. There are others, but this is the most popular one. And to get the JS code into the device, we just pass it through PhoneGap. And that does the magic of getting that to run properly. Now, to get WebRTC to run as well, we just add a WebRTC plugin to PhoneGap. You go online, you search, you'll find 2 or 3 of such plugins. You can try them out. Some of them work better, some worse. But there are alternatives out there. The second type is compile code. I need to compile the code and run it. I can use Xamarin and then use C#, React Native, Titanium Accelerate, or other such frameworks and platforms, some open source, some proprietary and commercial. Today we're going to look at React Native later on in one of the talks. Now, when we talk about native development, what you want to do is to run run natively on the device. And for that, you need to take WebRTC and split it, or your application, and split it into 3 different parts. There's the application part, which the code that you write today and do very well how to achieve. And then there's the WebRTC core engine. And that part is written in C or C++. And on top of it, there's a kind of a glue that will get the WebRTC functionality that you need into your application. And when you talk about iOS, that glue is going to be Objective-C, and your application will be either in Objective-C or Swift or both. When we move to Android, then that glue is going to be JNI. Your application will be written in Java, and there's this minor complexity, complication, or detail that all of the low-level media stuff you need to access through Java, and you can't access through C code. So you get these libraries as well from the WebRTC code, but you need to know of these different changes and architectures that are there. And then the question is, which one should we use? Should we go for a web application, a native one, a hybrid? Which framework do we need to take? Well, I just have no clue. I don't know. It is going to depend on you, on your company, on how you work, on the structure of the team that you have in place, on the know-how that you have in the company, on the requirements that you have, and on what you want to achieve. So what I want you to do today is to listen up to the rest of the presentations that we have. We've got a lot of content for you, and to be more informed in what you're going to do and to make better decisions when you go to mobile. So what we did was collected the best speakers that we could find. Really, we found very good speakers. I'm very happy with the speakers that we have. And they are going to talk to you and to give you a lot of information, things that I haven't known until yesterday when we did a lot of the dry runs. Okay? The first part of the day, we're going to look into the actual operating system. We'll start by a talk on Android, and then we'll move to iOS, and the details of what you need to do when you go and pick the code from webrtc.org and compile it and run it. And all the things that you need to do, the ugly stuff, the black work that needs to be done to get things in place. After that part, we're going to go out on a break. Then you'll be able to mingle, ask questions, talk to each other, refreshments, at the cafeteria on the other side. After the break, we're going to be back, and then we're going to talk about, I'd say, the part of somewhere between hybrid and native development. And we're going to have sessions around using C++ as your cross-platform development, which was, for me, was very new to see someone does that with WebRTC on mobile. It was like, okay, someone is really brave. And that's a very interesting talk. Then we're going to listen for the React Native one, how to get that done and what happened there. From there, we're going to segue a bit. Something